I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Alright, before we get going, let's talk about a few pieces of news. Scarlett Johansson will be producing an upcoming Tower of Terror movie for Disney.
I'm a little bit wary of this one because the last time they tried this, it didn't go so well.
You are doubting Steve Guttenberg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Jungle Cruise isn't out yet. I would at least wait and see how Jungle Cruise does before you try to do another ride-based movie.
I mean, ride-based movies and Disney have not done terribly well.
Except unless you're Pirates of the Caribbean. That's about it.
Pirates is the one kind of glaring exception, but every other time they've tried to do it, it really has not gone well.
Haunted Mansion, Country Bears. It's not a good track record. And I'm wondering if halfway through this movie, the Guardians of the Galaxy show up and it's their movie.
Yeah, I mean, that would be better. Tower of Terror looked like, to me, I never got to write it because it opened after my last time at Disney as a kid. And I really want to go on it because I am such a massive Twilight Zone fan. So I've always wanted to go on it, but to be honest, it always kind of looked like, let's take Haunted Mansion and then put a drop ride at the end of it.
You're not exactly wrong, because the version in Florida is you go up the elevator, then you go through the elevator actually leaves the cabinet, and you actually go through like a dark ride style of Twilight Zone style effects, and then you hit the drop.
Was the one in Hollywood different?
The one in California was just you go into the elevator, you go up, you go to the top floor, you see the guests disappear, and then you do the drop.
Oh yeah, that does sound different. Yeah.
Yeah, they completely cut out the dark ride portion.
Yeah, well, the one that I don't even think I knew about the one in California for the longest time. And when they said, like, they've converted Tower of Terror into the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, I was like, oh no, they've taken away the one in Florida because it was the only one I knew about. So I was very confused on that end for a long time. But that was the only one I knew about, so I was like, oh, well, it's you go up the elevator, it's the dark ride, and then you end with the drop. That's the only concept I had for that ride. So for me, it was just Haunted Mansion with, like, an adrenaline bit at the end. Mm-hmm. Which, honestly, is kind of where I'm at. As a park goer, like I want all of the Haunted Mansion kind of cool stuff, and then one quick jolt at the end is kind of awesome. The
only thing is that I don't think the movie will have any of that Twilight Zone element because of CBS and Viacom kind of doing their own version of Twilight Zone with Jordan Peele.
Yeah, and that show gets a lot of crap. I liked it. I liked what it was going for. There was a real meta aspect to it. I'm kind of sad they're done with it, but I realized that Jordan Peele's got better stuff to do, frankly. It's like, what is Tower of Terror without the Twilight Zone thing?
I think they're just gonna have the mystery of the elevator of the hotel, that these people went into the elevator of the hotel, they disappeared, and someone is gonna solve the mystery. I don't know if Scarlett Johansson is going to be in the movie, but she is set to be a producer on the movie.
Well,
Take
I've seen that before, and it was called American Horror Story Hotel. Like, I'm sorry, but any way you look at it, I've seen this film. I don't know. Disney's gonna have to do something really interesting between now and the first trailer to really get me on board with this. Right now, I am very disinterested in this.
we'll see where it goes. Again, I think it's a little too soon. Again, we don't know the reception that Black Widow's going to get, and we don't know the reception of Jungle Cruise yet. And to put the star of Black Widow with a concept based off a ride like the way they're doing with Jungle Cruise, I think it's just they're putting too much faith up front, and I would wait. But Disney gonna Disney.
Eh.
All right, let's move on. Disney's live action Snow White. We kind of mentioned this back when we talked about Snow White. Looks like this is just going to be a straight up retelling of Snow White. And they have their live action Snow White, Rachel Zegler, who will be starring as Maria in the upcoming West Side Story remake with Steven Spielberg.
Let's get the big quote unquote controversy out of the way. She is half Colombian. And it is garnering a bunch of racist backlash online.
The main thing I'm going to say is that we always get the same argument from people is that why are they always casting white people in these roles? Well, they're the best actor for the job, and fine. But what if she's the best actor for the job? What if all the people who audition for Snow White, Rachel Zegler or whatever, what if she is the one that blew them all away and say, oh, she's the best singer we've got who auditioned. She is the best looking woman. She's the best actor. But then but they don't want to hear that.
I will say I don't really know anything about her, and I haven't seen her anything. I have been looking forward to West Side Story. The cast, the other people in the cast look amazing, but I will say that what I have heard following the making of West Side Story is that everyone who has been on set and been involved in the kind of tangentially with the production of this film has come back and said this girl's voice is going to blow your mind. And if that's the case, I think that's probably what got her the part as Snow White. And if that's the case, I think that Disney may have made a shrewd move. Because Snow White's voice was kind of the thing that blew everybody's mind originally, too. I mean, it was, wow, a full-length animated feature film was the one thing, but then that voice, we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. So if they're doing the same thing again in live action, where you're just like, wow, that voice, then good move on Disney's part, but we won't know until we hear it.
Yeah, this Snow White is going to depend greatly on how people take in this remake of West Side Story. I know it's different studios, I know it's different directors, but the general public's not going to care about that. They're going to see this woman as Maria, and her performance in that movie will completely either sell or break this Snow White remake.
But the interesting thing is that she has played a few... I looked into her, and she has played a few Disney princesses on stage already. As a kid, she kept getting cast as Disney princesses in various community theaters and school productions and stuff like that. So she's played Ariel on stage, she's played Belle, and so she kept getting cast as various Disney princesses. And years ago, before she got cast in anything of note on social media, she kept posting pictures of herself in like Disney Halloween costumes and pictures of her at Disney parks posing with cast members dressed as princesses, and just constantly talking about how all she wanted to be was a Disney princess.
And now she will be one.
And now she will be one. And if all things aside, a little girl who dreamed of growing up and being a Disney princess just grew up to be a Disney princess. And to me, that is kind of the coolest thing in the world. As a little girl who dreamed of growing up to be a Disney princess, I cannot imagine what that must feel like. And so, all other considerations aside, holy crap, girl, go get your Disney princess dream.
Let's move on to our main feature, The Rescuers Down Under. When we started this podcast almost 2 years ago.
Long ago in the before four.
Back when you could go places and not have to wear
people.
And not have to wear pieces of cloth on your face. Yeah, good times, good times. Anyway, back then, we made the decision that we were going to start the podcast with the era that kind of defined our childhood, the Disney Renaissance. And we have done every movie in the Disney Renaissance, save one. The reason we haven't done The Rescuers Down Under yet is because we were kind of waiting for the right time to do the first one, because we didn't really want to do a sequel before we did the original. And we finally got a chance to do the original last week, so why not write the final page in this chapter of Disney movies. So, we've mentioned it last week, that The Rescuers is the highest financially successful movie of the post-Walt pre-Renaissance era. In fact, by the time Michael Eisner, Frank Wells, and Jeffrey Katzenberg joined the company, it had been the most financially successful movie overall. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, this is probably the weirdest bit of Disney trivia ever. The most confusing. Why that movie?
In a pre-Little Mermaid world. That one.
Well, honestly, I think we enjoyed the Black Cauldron more than we enjoyed The Rescuers.
That says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the Black Cauldron really is known as like, oh, that's Disney whiffing it good. You know, that Disney almost closed because of that. It almost killed Disney. There is more to enjoy, at least for the two of us. I think we found more to enjoy in the Black Cauldron than...
There was definitely more potential in Black Cauldron than the first Rescuers movie.
Yeah, and I don't know what the books are like in The Rescuers. Mm-hmm. The books kind of sounded cool, you know, when we looked into them, and it was like, you know, there's a political prisoner poet stuck in jail, and these mice try to keep his spirits up, and that sounds like a book I want to read. And instead what we got was Cruella de Not putting some kid in a bayou to get a diamond. I don't even, it was such a mess.
So it was one of Disney's most successful films. It was Disney's most successful animated film. So when Michael Eisner takes over, of course he wants to do a sequel to the most successful movie they've got. And in that infamous pitch meeting where Eisner and Wells and Katzenberg are getting all of the animators together and asking them what kind of movies they want to make. We've talked about it many times over. Oliver Twist with Dogs, Treasure Planet in Space, and a sequel to The Rescuers.
And we've done all of those movies except the sequel to The Rescuers. So here we go.
So it was kind of a no-brainer. It doesn't matter yes, Disney at the time was very against sequels. Walt was very against the idea of sequels, even though Disney themselves had done a few for their live-action movies. The Absent-Minded Professor got Son of Flubber. Misadventures of Merlin Jones got The Monkey's Uncle. And quite a few Herbie the Love Bug movies. Oh yeah, The Apple Dumpling Gang got a sequel. But they never did one for their animated movies. So, yeah, why not do the most successful one you've got? It's a no-brainer, and from a studio perspective, guaranteed money. We all know how modern Disney loves their guaranteed money movies.
I think that's pretty much everything that Disney puts out now.
Also, much like Walt, Eisner was very much interested in new filming techniques. And computers were becoming a thing. We've kind of talked a little bit about it several times on the podcast before. As a relatively upstart computer company named Pixar was trying to get into the animation business. Whatever happened to them?
I don't know. Doesn't ring a bell.
So yeah, Disney and Pixar, again, the Disney-Pixar relationship goes back a lot further than people think it does. Pixar created the CAPS system, Computer Animation Production System, that Disney would use for pretty much every animated movie, starting with The Little Mermaid. A lot of the effects done for Little Mermaid was done through this CAPS system, but The Rescuers has that distinction of being the first animated movie to be completely animated on computers. No cells, no, yes, hand-drawn animation, but all of the inking, coloring, and animation was all done on computers, which was very interesting for a lot of the boomers and Gen X animators trying to learn how to use a computer.
Computer.
Yeah, so that was fun. Also, this is one of the first movies to use the freshly opened Disney MGM Studios. 10 minutes of this movie was animated at the Disney MGM Studios, which would have a hand in pretty much all of the Disney Renaissance movies.
We have to talk, though, about the other big cultural moment.
Oh, I was going to get to that, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, I want to talk about that really much, because we've talked about some of the background stuff in the Renaissance before, and caps and all that, but we haven't talked about the cultural moment that gave us this film.
So, for the younger people out there who may not know, there was a time where America was really obsessed with Australia.
So obsessed.
And it all started with a movie that came out in 1986 called Crocodile Dundee.
The little kid in this film keeps having like a tiny little Swiss Army knife, and I kept wanting somebody to just wander out and be like, "No, kid, that ain't a knife. This is a knife." Like, it's so bad. Oh.
So yeah, we wouldn't have had the Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin, if it wasn't for Crocodile Dundee. And, this is a name that probably only the two of us are going to remember. Yahoo Serious?
I don't know. It's
Foster's, Australian for beer. So yeah, it was just a thing in America that was just obsessed with Australia and Australian culture. So you take the most popular, the most financial successful animated movie that Disney had at that time, with America's obsession with Australia, and you put it together. Oh, it's a can't miss prospect. No. This movie didn't do so well at the theater, mostly because it opened against a movie that we've talked about before, Home Alone.
Yeah, we keep talking about the fact that Disney has an unfortunate habit of opening against things that absolutely crushed them at this time.
Since the movie essentially bombed at the box office, within 1 week, Katzenberg had all of the advertisement for the movie pulled. It's not like today where everything's on the internet and everything's on the internet forever. They were gone from print. They were gone from television. They were gone from radio. If you did not already know this movie was out, you wouldn't know.
Disney didn't have the pull it does now. Disney now with a theater will say, we don't care what the movie is making you. We don't care if nobody's coming to see it. You have to guarantee to run this in a certain number of screens in your theater for this many weeks before we'll let you show it at all. Sometimes if you don't do that for their smaller films, they won't let you show the bigger films, like the next MCU movie. But at the time, if a movie wasn't making money, theaters would just pull it. Which really made you need to go see it. You know, for anyone younger in our audience who doesn't remember that time, there was a big push to, like, if you wanted to go see a movie, you wanted to go see a movie in the first weekend or two, because if it didn't make enough money, it wasn't going to be there weekend 3. If the television advertising disappears and it doesn't make enough money, you know, week 1 or 2, it's just gone. You know, and then you have to wait 9 months, a year, maybe, for it to come out on VHS at the time. Let's go ahead and kind of do our thing. I think we've talked enough about the backstory.
We got some of the original cast.
Yeah, a lot of the same cast. We got Bob Newhart and Eva Gabor back.
This is Eva Gabor's final film role.
Yeah, the Rescuers movies kill a lot of people. There is a high body count with we talked about that last week, is like most of the cast that was like, and in their final film role, you know. This was Eva Gabor's final film role. She passed in 95.
Bernard Fox comes back as the Chair Mouse, also playing the Doctor.
Yeah,
that's it. That's as much of the original cast that they were able to bring back.
Yeah, most of them, as we said last week, that was their final film role, or they had passed in the time since.
And unfortunately, they were trying to get Jim Jordan to come back, but he had passed on right before they started recording lines for this film.
Yeah. So instead of Orville the Albatross, who we had in the previous film, we get his brother, Wilbur.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and it's played by, of course, the legendary John Candy.
Uncle Buck, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, The Great Outdoors, Spaceballs, Stripes. He would also be in Home Alone.
One of the greats to come out of the Toronto branch of Second City.
SCTV was amazing.
The thing about him here is that he's almost weirdly understated. I like his performance in this film because it is a little more understated for him. But it fits the tone of the film.
This is a little bit more serious film than the first movie was. And to have wacky John Candy, he's still wacky in this movie, but to have him in the over-the-top characters he's known to play as wouldn't fit in the style that they're trying to tell here.
He's a more grounded version of himself, which is odd for a bird and an albatross. I don't know. But really interesting performance. And a good addition to the cast. I really enjoyed him in this. He's probably my favorite part of the film, honestly. Whew. George C. Scott as our villain here for this one. Percival McLeach, the poacher, who is our much better villain than Madame Cruella for... What was her name?
Madame Medusa.
Madame Medusa. Our Cruella de Vil, who is not Cruella de Vil from the last film. The interesting thing about George C. Scott is he is not a comedic actor, but he keeps showing up sometimes in like satire. Like he has a really good part in Doctor Strangelove.
And a lot of the motions of McLeach is based off his performance in Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, but he's probably best known for playing Patton in the biopic Patton. I mean, that's his Oscar right there.
I read your book.
Yeah.
Can't say the full line because this is a family podcast.
We're a family show. But yeah, but he is also, like you said, this is a strangely more serious film. And he brings that serious. He is, Madame Medusa was just like, I hate children and I want a diamond. She looks scary because she looks like Cruella de Vil, but she didn't really have any gravitas to her. Like, you didn't really feel scared of her. Even as a kid, I don't think I'd find her scary. McLeach terrifies you even as an adult. And, we talk about Cruella de Vil because of the connection with the character from the first film. This dude puts Cruella de Vil to shame because, Cruella wants furs. This guy is killing and skinning animals every day. When you get back to his lair, it is covered in animal skins.
To the point where the animals in the movie are saying, well, the only way I'm getting out here is as a purse.
He is running a death camp for animals, and the animals know it. Like, half of this film is a horror film. George C. Scott plays it 100% completely straight the whole time. I mean, he's having fun, but he's not camp. He's not over the top. This is a guy you could meet in real life, and it's terrifying. And our last kind of big addition to the cast is Jake, the little hopping mouse that helps out Bernard and Bianca, and he is played by Tristan Rogers. Tristan Rogers is an Australian actor who mostly lives and works in America. He plays Robert Scorpio on the soap opera General Hospital. That is his main claim to fame. As far as I know, he is still on the show.
He's not a main character on General Hospital anymore, but he is a recurring character, so he's still there.
I mean, he's still working. He's still going. He's 75 right now. But yeah,
the character of Jake is dressed and sounds like and acts like just like Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, it is very clear that they were hopping mouse in on that that Crocodile Dundee thing. He is very much meant to evoke that in the adult audience, at least. Anyway, a couple of people who have come back that we've talked about on the show before. Russie Taylor gets a cute little cameo as the nurse mouse.
And she is using the Minnie Mouse voice.
They are very much Minnie Mouse things, but they are the creepiest things. They are these little dead-eyed mice that run around and they all talk like Minnie Mouse. It's really, really creepy.
Especially, well, kind of a spoiler, but they use a shotgun and they're these cute little, imagine Minnie Mouse trying to aim a shotgun. It is the funniest thing you'll ever hear.
Yeah. And we have Douglas Seal as Krebs the koala. And you'll know Douglas Seal because he is the Sultan from Aladdin. He is Jasmine's dad.
Same voice.
Yeah, it is pretty much the same voice, except somehow a bit more gay. It's like a bit more affected.
It's he's using a really bad Australian accent.
Yeah, he's trying to sound Australian and it just doesn't work. And, of course, we have Frank Welker.
The legendary Frank Welker.
Yeah, know him, love him. Frank Welker is, the vocal effects behind the giant eagle at the center of the story, and then also Joanna the lizard that
Yes,
is
Marahute, the eagle. Yes.
yeah yeah, I never know how to pronounce that because they don't really say it a lot in the movie.
Mm.
But and then Joanna the evil lizard that goes around with McLeach, who also probably my second favorite. No, probably my favorite character. I think John Candy's my favorite performance, but I think Joanna's my favorite character in the entire film because she's just so much fun.
You just want to, lay around like a lizard and eat eggs all day.
Especially if they're deviled. If they're deviled, I could eat like, I don't know, 10 dozen deviled eggs in a day. It's pretty incredible how many eggs I can put away if you're like, I'm gonna devil those eggs. I'm like, I could eat twice my weight in deviled eggs, I think, in a day.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, challenge accepted entirely. Yeah. So yeah, some good returning talent there.
I've got one more piece of thing before we get into here. So we have the young boy Cody, who's our main kid in this movie. Originally, this was supposed to be an Aborigines child.
Huh.
And was supposed to be voiced by an Aborigines actor. But certain people in high rank said that a non-white child may not appeal to their general audience. So Cody became a white kid.
Oh wow. How fun.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into this movie here. Let's talk about Cody now that I brought that up. So Cody here seems to have his own little rescue aid society as he wakes up to a didgeridoo sound and he's immediately out the door, gets his little pocket knife, he wakes up his little animal friends, and they meet up to find out that the giant eagle named Marahute has been captured by a poacher, and they're going to rescue him. So automatically off the bat, we get this notion that Cody really loves animals, to the point where he's going to save all of these animals from these poacher traps, and has gotten the other animals in the outback to kind of be his team, which is a nice little character trait for him. He really likes animals.
There's a couple of things. I found it really hilarious that it was like, how else are you gonna know you're in Australia if we don't use the didgeridoo over every single part of this opening sequence? At first, the movie makes you think that's kind of just his alarm clock. Like, his alarm clock just sounds like a didgeridoo because Australia! You can tell that this is a movie made by a bunch of Americans who have been to Australia for like a weekend. You know?
One of the oddest things is that there's a really weird distinction of which animals can talk and which ones can't, and which ones look anthropomorphized and which ones look like regular animals.
This is a thing that Disney does a lot, though. Mickey Mouse has clothes and Pluto is just a dog. In this early, sequence, it's like the kangaroo absolutely 100% speaks English. But some of the other animals in that thing don't seem to speak English. And then the eagle does not seem to understand him at all, and it definitely doesn't speak. Meanwhile, Joanna understands English, doesn't talk. All of the animals in the poacher death camp seem to be able to both speak and understand English.
Let's kind of backtrack to this opening. It's a beautiful opening. It's very well animated. How the way the eagle's wings spread out as Cody breaks the ropes, the way the animation on Cody falling, and the entire sequence of Cody riding on the eagle is amazing.
Yeah, it also starts a running theme that Cody is not that bright. He starts to cut the rope to be like, hey, look, I'm gonna let you free. And the eagle lashes out and almost makes him fall. And instead of Cody being like, okay, calm down. I don't want to fall off this giant rock to my death, which I think even at like 8, I think both of us would have been like, falling to my imminent death from a giant rock, bad idea. Let's calm the giant animal. Which, by the way, okay, let's talk about this eagle.
Mm-hmm.
This eagle is not an eagle from Earth. This eagle is from Middle Earth. It was sent here by Gandalf to grab a hobbit and take it to Mount Doom. I don't know where this eagle comes from, but it does not come from Australia. I checked with an actual Australian. I am not kidding. My Australian friend got a very weird text message.
This eagle is the size of a small plane.
I don't even know what time it was. Yeah, this eagle is the size of a small plane. It is about 5 times the size of this boy who's like 8. This is absolutely a Middle Earth eagle. So yeah, I was like, I sent a very weird text message to a friend of mine who lives in Canberra, Australia, and I was like, so y'all just have like child snatching eagles down there? And to his credit, he immediately sent back rescuers down under. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what's going on. Well done. And he was like, well, a group of them have been known to carry off kangaroo, but no, they're not usually child snatching eagles, thank you.
It's dingo took my baby, not eagle took my baby.
Yeah. But yeah, so the animators playing a little fast and loose with some of the wildlife. However, the type of lizard that Joanna is, those things can reach like 8 feet long, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. One of those things.
Yeah, and kudos to the animation team for making these animals move as realistically as possible while still making them work for a Disney movie.
Yeah, they're kind of cute Disney creatures, but they do move relatively realistically, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Cody is too intent on getting the eagle free to the point where he like absolutely just falls off the cliff and would fall to his death if the eagle hadn't saved him. So yeah,
again,
but,
that's the scene is beautifully animated, especially for this being the first movie they used computers to animate the whole thing on.
The backgrounds are really gorgeous, and especially when they do the fog whenever there's a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
They would do this again in Pocahontas, and they would do it even better.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about it in Pocahontas, how every time the mist from the waterfalls, it looked really gorgeous, and they practiced that here. And it looks good. And there's a nice watercolor. They were still using that kind of watercolor background effect in this one. Mm-hmm. And it looks really pretty with the Australian scenery. So I liked it. But Cody, not only does not fall to his death, but he does get the nice, giant eagle friend, which is cool.
Yeah, and then Eagle, Marahute takes Cody home to meet the babies, the eagle eggs that she is about to hatch. But yeah, there's no daddy mate. Eagle. There's no daddy eagle.
Her mate has been killed. but she gives him one of her feathers. This is very Tolkien because it's like you got a giant eagle and it gives one of the golden hairs from its head, which is very Galadriel. They should have just done like animated Tolkien at this point.
And of course, Cody saying, "Well, my dad's gone too," because we need a dead parrot in a Disney movie.
Yeah, thanks Disney. But you know, as Cody's trying to make his way back home, he sees a little mouse in a trap, and he's like, "Don't worry, Mousy, I will get you." And the mouse is like, "No, don't do it, don't do it." And of course, Cody is not the brightest child, and so he takes out his knife and does that, and falls into a giant pit trap because the mouse was bait. And he doesn't listen because Cody is not the brightest child. I don't know if I've mentioned that.
He just wants to save animals, and
I
whatever.
mean, I save animals, but I'm not like, you know, I don't.
He's
rush
very
in
naive.
headlong.
Let's just say that Cody is very naive about the world. Again, he's 8.
Yeah. But yeah, he falls into a giant pit trap, which summons the poacher, and the poacher's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get me a nice plump boy." But he sees that he's got an eagle feather, and he's like, "Oh, you know where the eagle is." And then he decides to add kidnapping to poaching, because if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And
also, we find out that it was in fact McLeach that killed the father bird,
yeah.
because he has the trophy of the feather of his own.
But fortunately, since Cody saved a mouse, the mouse immediately goes to the RAS
Outpost in Australia?
outpost in Australia. They've gotten better since the last movie. I guess 15 years will get you better infrastructure, and there's like a whole
Network now, yeah.
yeah.
This whole scene is actually pretty good of them relaying this little this message, this telegraph message.
Yeah, it is much better than weird
A message in a bottle?
Message in a bottle.
Yeah. So yeah, if this was in modern day, it would just be one message on the internet, which would make this a completely different movie.
But I do like the relay system. I like seeing all the things, like it relays to a human outpost and it just says RAS, and the guy is like, what does this message mean, and everything. But there's a mouse in the corner that's like, oh, and then relays it on. And I like little touches like that there's this whole, I always like the idea that there's a whole parallel world running next to the human world.
These mice have gotten their stuff together since the first movie. They are relaying that message over and over and over. One even says, "Send to New York," because that is the main headquarters of the Rescue Aid Society.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't have just sent it to Jake. It's obvious that it originated in Australia, but
I don't think Jake works for the Rescue Aid Society. Jake just works at the airport.
I mean, every time I look up a like, you know, somebody talking about this film, he's always listed as kind of like a local operative. So
they never explain that in the film, because he's just at the airport and then he says, "Oh, you need a guide. I'll be your guide," and then that's it.
well, I mean, maybe.
But he seems to know what's going on, much like in the first movie where the local animals know what's going on.
Yeah, I guess the Rescue Aid Society just shows up so much more. The thing I like about this movie, as far as the plot, that I didn't like so much before, is that weirdly, even though they're sort of there to save a human child, they're really there to save animals. And to me, that makes more sense for a mouse-driven rescue aid society.
And considering that they started out with Euripides Mouse saving a lion.
Yeah, why aren't they there to save the animals? Why do they keep showing up to save human children? We don't really need a human character in these movies.
Like I said last week, one of the original ideas was them saving a polar bear. And there was going to be no kid in the movie.
I think that makes more sense. Or a kid stumbles upon the plot, like, our rescue mission takes us through this small child's bedroom and they discover us and then they come along to help.
Yeah.
Cody makes more sense because he's there to save the animals too.
Yeah. So, in New York, an emergency meeting of the Rescue Aid Society is taking place because of this message. We don't know how late in the day it is because quite a number of the members are in pajamas. Yet at the same time, Bernard and Bianca are on a date.
Well, it could be like 9 or 10. Most of the members seem kind of old. And it is a pretty fancy restaurant, so, could be that prime sweet spot about 9 or 10. Once again, with that parallel thing, I love that there's like a whole mouse society living right next to the human society.
Yeah, here's this big fancy French restaurant, and in between the walls, all the bugs in the place have set up their own business for the mice.
And there's, the mice are kind of in the rafters above in this kind of balcony setting up near the chandeliers. It's just gorgeous. And the animation is really pretty too. And the dress they have Bianca in, it's so good.
So which leads us to our little subplot here of Bernard trying to ask Bianca to marry him. They've been together for a while. And as I've said last week, Bernard is now officially the American representative of the Rescue Aid Society. No longer the janitor. He got a promotion.
Yeah.
And they've obviously been together for a while. We don't know how long, but they've been in a relationship for a while. And Bernard wants to make it forever.
Although Miss Bianca calls it a partnership. They never officially say they're dating. That's kind of the interesting thing I noticed is that...
But she does kiss him several times.
Well, yeah, but she kind of did that in the first movie, too. She gives him kisses on the cheek and stuff like that and calls him darling. And you mentioned that last week, is that, like, very quickly they're calling each other pet names and stuff like that. But they're not actually kind of dating, quote unquote, until the end of the movie where they're snuggling in the back of the...
These two are at least involved at this point. Maybe not dating exclusively, but they are involved at this point in the relationship.
I just find it interesting that in Disney movies of this time, they won't admit that the characters are dating. At the end of the previous movie, it's kind of like, and they lived happily ever after, because they didn't think there was going to be a sequel. So, your idea was supposed to be like, oh, they're a couple now and they're gonna get married. But, in this movie, instead of just starting with them, like, married or whatever, they wanted to have this subplot of, is Jake there to steal Bianca? And Bernard trying to propose and stuff like that. But at the same time, kids' movies weren't evolved enough to be like, oh, kids understand what dating is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, everything... This was still the point where Disney was so completely sexless that they were also, like... You could have one very chaste kiss at the end of a movie, and that was the only time that relationships were mentioned, other than the word marriage. Marriage was this nebulous thing that, like, and eventually they get married. Well, what is marriage? I'll tell you when you're older. It's like, they didn't really talk about it. So Disney's in a weird spot here where there has to be affection between Bernard and Bianca to the point where he's proposing to her, but they can't be, like, dating. They can't be affectionate because it's a kid's movie. You don't want to suggest that there's any hanky-panky going on between the mice.
Yeah.
You know?
Disney would get that flack anyway, just for implying that two characters would be interested in each other.
Yeah, but they're trying to do it in as much, so Bianca has to seem completely
oblivious
to the fact that they're dating. Like, oh, you're such a nice friend. You are great. We have a partnership. It's like...
Even though we make out and spend lots of time together, but we're just friends.
Even though I call you darling all the time and give you kisses.
She's from Hungary. Maybe that's how they do it.
Yeah, and we live in the same apartment, in the same bed. I don't know. It's very bizarre. So I find that hilarious, is that this entire thing, and they have to do this, like, Bernard is very upset that Jake is also there and being a more manly man than Bernard.
Jake is acting cooler. Jake's cool and Bernard is just this dorky guy. So he's in his, he's trying to find the right word.
Toxic masculinity?
I wouldn't go that far, but he's very jealous of Jake. He's very...
But it is, though. Jake is traditional masculine. He's the outdoors guy who is stronger and skinnier and athletic and everything. Bernard is, not that.
He's the nerdy guy that's dating the hot chick, and they happen to run into a hot guy.
Yeah, and it's such an annoying subplot.
It's such a 90s trope, though. It's such a 90s trope. And this is a 90s movie.
Because it's kind of, if you watch the movie, Jake has zero interest in Bianca. Like, there is never a point where it kind of...
He does snuggle up to Bianca, though. There is one part where they're riding the snake, that he starts to snuggle up with her, which kind of gets under Bernard's skin.
Well, maybe, but it's one of those where I think he figures out very quickly that, like, Bernard and Bianca are together, and he's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's implied, when they first meet Jake, he's like, oh, you and your husband are here. Oh, he's not my husband. Oh, he's not your husband.
Yeah, I think it's one of those kind of misunderstanding things, and then Jake is like, oh, he's not your husband, but... okay, fine. And then, because there's not a lot of flirting either. Like, as far as a weird love triangle go, it's also the most sexless.
The entire love triangle is all in Bernard's head. Because he is so,
Bianca is too good for me. Yeah.
He has so little confidence in himself that he just thinks that Bianca is going to leave him for the first hot guy she sees, which says a lot about how he feels about how he sees Bianca.
Yeah, you think Bianca's that much of a flake? Like, come on.
Bianca had every man in the Rescue Aid Society jump over themselves to be her travel partner in the first movie, and she chose Bernard.
Have a little faith. That's all I'm saying. Come on.
She has chosen you, buddy. Even though, yes, you are a little pudgy. Yes, you're a little short, for a mouse even. Yes, you're kind of a worrywart and a superstitious guy, but she's still your woman, and she's going to stay your woman.
They have totally dropped the superstition. There is not a mention of the number 13 in this whole movie that I caught. Did I miss something?
Other than the fact that he mentions, let's take the train instead, which is one of the few callbacks to the original movie.
Well, yeah, he doesn't seem happy flying, but honestly, if I strapped you to the back of a giant bird in a sardine can, I don't think you'd want to fly either. You know, like, I'm kind of okay with planes. I wouldn't want to do that.
Let's talk about Wilbur now that we've mentioned him. So when Bernard and Bianca agree to take this mission, they go to Orville's and realize that he's no longer there. Under new management, see Wilbur. And they meet Wilbur, Orville's brother.
What happened to Orville? We're not going to talk about it because it's a kid's movie. Moving on, Wilbur.
Yeah, so Wilbur apparently is a big fan of Miss Bianca, as his brother has told him all about Miss Bianca and how awesome she is. Hasn't mentioned Bernard.
Not cool, Orville. Anyway, they did kind of clear up something that annoyed me about the first movie.
How can an albatross fly from New York to Louisiana in one night?
Yeah, and in this one, they kind of show Wilbur somehow hopping into the cargo section of a plane.
Yeah, they make it clear. Oh, is this going to be a nonstop flight? No, we got to get on a bigger bird for this one.
Yeah.
I like how at first Wilbur is very in his own head. Oh, hey, you want to go on a romantic vacation, you're going to it's going to be a while because there's a storm. So there's a big winter storm outside. Wilbur says he's not going to fly because of the storm. And then they bring out, oh, a kid's in trouble. And that seems to tug at Wilbur's heart enough to say, no kid's going to lose their freedom on my watch. But it says a lot about Wilbur. You know, he cares about kids.
Yeah, and I do like that about him. He's willing to help the mission. You know, he realizes that this isn't just a vacation they're going on. They're here on official business, and he's willing to help. You know, he flies them somewhere, gets them onto a plane, and they end up flying the rest of the way to Australia. This is the only part where the animation breaks down a little bit, and the CAPS system. When they fly over the Sydney Opera House,
Really bad CG model.
Yeah, whatever they copied over doesn't blend so well over the years. But once you get past that initial shot, it goes back to being gorgeous again. It really is kind of the only time the cap system breaks down the whole movie. So, good job. Really impressed with how well the system has held up over the years. Again, as I say, I watched this on a 4K, ultra high def system, so it looked really good on my end. So good job.
This is kind of where we enter Wilbur's C plot, I guess.
Yeah, this is a really bizarre thing.
So Wilbur has his own plot in the movie where he tries to land on the airport that Jake works at because it's the airport in the outback. But the airport is a very small airport and he's a very big bird. But he lands anyway and injures his back to the point where they have to take him to a doctor. I like Jake's reaction. He's like, Yanks, they think they can do whatever they want. Yes, Jake. Yanks do think they can do whatever they want. We've gone through about 1.5 years of that.
Yeah, even Americans are sick of Americans at this point. Trust us, we feel you. Like I said, a very large chunk of this movie is just straight up horror story, and this is one of those scenes. The whole subplot of Wilbur in the hospital is nightmare fuel.
And it feels like the doctor kinda doesn't know what he's doing.
Very much does not know what he's doing. I think it's just
he wants to put Wilbur in surgery. Like, they don't even know what's wrong with him. He just injured his back. All he needs to do is lay down for a few days. I've hurt my back like that. You lay down for a day or two and you're fine. when you're younger.
Well, also he injures his back trying to pick up Miss Bianca's suitcases. So what does Miss Bianca put in her suitcases is another thing we maybe should have.
It's a joke about women who pack too much. That happened a lot in the 80s.
Okay, but seriously though, have you ever traveled with a woman like Miss Bianca though?
No.
That I have gone overseas with women with a little too much money before.
Bianca is very high maintenance, which again adds to Bernard's fear. You know, she's a very high society girl, and he's kind of not. He's a commoner.
Yeah. I'm just saying the stereotype exists for a reason sometimes.
And of course we get, well, to go back to Wilbur, he's like, you can't do this to me. I'm an American. Oh, Wilbur, no. That's the last thing you want to say.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where we get the weird dead-eyed mice trying to shoot him with shotguns and stuff.
A shotgun with 2 rounds of tranquilizers. And it's just Russie Taylor in her Minnie Mouse voice aiming a shotgun, and it's hilarious. So, I thought about something while watching this movie. So, they put 2 hypodermic needles in a shotgun. Why don't we do that? Because we know how much people love their guns in America. We put the vaccines in the guns, and then they can shoot each other with the vaccines.
Oh, you know, I wish it were that easy. Can we conceal carry tranquilizer guns full of vaccine? I don't know. Oh.
So yeah, this is where we get, you know, Jake offers himself to be their tour guide throughout the outback to get the kid. And yeah, this is where Bernard starts getting jealous because here's this fancy Australian macho man snooping in on his woman, while all he wants to do is ask this woman to marry him.
Yeah, who knows? But we eventually end up seeing where Cody's being held, and it's the other half of the horror movie, which is this weird poacher camp. You know, poacher death camp for animals, and there's all these animals, including the world's gayest koala, who I kind of love. I mean, it's just a koala throwing shade at every other animal in the...
Including this neurotic iguana.
Yeah, the weird frilled iguana lizard thing that's in there. Mm-hmm. A kangaroo. They're all just, I mean, they're super depressed because they've seen who knows how many animals come in and not leave unless they are, you know, just a skin. I mean, that's a horror film.
Yeah. So they got to get out of here. Luckily, our lizard here comes up with the idea that if we get the keys, we can get out of here. And Cody, with his ingenuity, gets all of these gets all the animals to pull all of these spare parts around the this little cage area, and they make a device that will grab the keys. Which again, it shows that Cody has a little bit of brain in him. He's not completely dumb.
He's just impulsive.
It works until Joanna comes back in.
Yeah.
And steals the keys.
I really like the little you know, the little frilled lizard Frank, because he's so neurotic and I love him. And then he starts using his tail as a lockpick.
And it works!
It works, but he doesn't realize it works, so it's one of those jokes where he's on the outside of the cage and he's like, we'll never be free! And then they're like, no, Frank, you're out! And then he's like sticking his neck back through the cage and he almost walks back into the cage and they're like, no, you're out! And And then he's like, lets his frill out, and then he gets stuck in the cage. Cody has to like put his frill down and like tighten it to like corkscrew him out. It's a really cute scene. I like it.
And again, it would have worked if Joanna hadn't come back in. I think this time with McLeach.
Yeah. She brings McLeach. We also get like a cute, I hesitate to call it cute, but it is kind of cute. It's funny. It's a little slapsticky bit where we get to see life with McLeach and Joanna, where Joanna just really loves eggs, and McLeach has like a whole bunch of boiled eggs, and is trying to keep them away from Joanna, and there's this whole sequence of him like moving the eggs back and forth, and Joanna trying to be sneaky and trying to get the eggs. And it's pointless in the film as far as it doesn't move the plot along, but it really is kind of a good little slapsticky Three Stooges kind of bit.
It shows the relationship between McLeach and Joanna.
Yeah.
Like, Joanna is only thinking about her next meal, even if it's at the expense of her owner.
Yeah, there's not really any affection between them. This is not a typical human pet relationship. It's very much a I will feed you, you will do things for me.
And, they make a thing, I give you all these other eggs, I give you eagle eggs, I give you pasta, I give all these different eggs, just don't touch my eggs.
Yeah.
And it's in that speech that McLeach figures it out. If I let the kid go, he's going to go to the eagle eggs, and that's how I'm going to get the eagle. Yeah.
Yeah, so he tricks Cody. He tells Cody that, like, oh, I heard on the radio that somebody shot the eagle, and now those poor little eagle eggs are just going to die without their mother to sit on them and keep them warm. Knowing that Cody's going to be the impulsive little kid that doesn't think about it and just goes, I have to save the eggs, and is going to run right to him.
And this is the part where all of the plots come together, because at this point, Wilbur tries to escape from this quack doctor and cracks his back into place. So he's going off to find Bernard and Bianca. Bernard, Bianca, and Jake have made it to McLeach's lair just in time for Cody to be released. So they hitch a ride on McLeach's truck. So yeah.
Also we see in a very depressing side note that, spoiler alert, never gets resolved on camera. Cody's mom thinks that he's dead because McLeach has thrown his backpack into
an alligator pit,
a crocodile pit, and the Rangers found the chewed up backpack, and they're like, oh, crocodiles ate your baby, sorry. And we just see Cody's mom being like, oh, my baby. And that's the last we see of Cody's mom.
We never even see her face in this movie.
Yeah, it's very Muppet Babies.
Yeah, or Charlie Brown if you want to go that far.
Yeah. It feels more Muppet Babies to me for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, Muppet Babies was on TV at the same time this movie was out.
Yeah, the animation, the way it is, just feels more Muppet Babies to me.
So yeah, we get Cody going to the eggs, Bernard and Bianca riding with McLeach, and Wilbur all flying in the same direction, all as these three plots are coming together. Bernard, Bianca, and Jake finally make it and try to convince this kid it's a trap. Don't move. McLeach is right on top of the hill. He's going to capture the eagle. Get out of here.
But Cody, I don't know if I've mentioned this, rather impulsive and sometimes not the brightest of children.
Yells at the eagle, get away! It's a trap! Get away!
And the eagle's like, a what now, huh? I don't understand English. I'm one of the weird animals in this film that doesn't understand English. Did you say you brought food for me and my babies?
And it's enough for it's. Where is McLeach getting this technology? He shoots a rocket out of his truck that explodes into a net that captures the eagle and ties itself up.
And Cody, because I don't know if I've mentioned this, but Cody is an impulsive child and not the brightest, jumps out into the chasm onto the net that holds the eagle, which then makes Jake lasso Cody's foot, and him and Bianca hold on, but
Bernard falls off.
Bernard can't quite catch it, so then Bianca goes flying, and they're like, Bianca, no! And Wilbur's like, wait, Bianca's in trouble, and starts flying that way, and oh my goodness. Cody,
So, yeah,
and then of course, Cody's impulsive.
We kind of skipped this one part because I want to talk about it.
Oh goodness.
Bernard is left behind. As we said, Bernard is unable to grab the rope in time, and he's left behind. So Bernard actually does something smart and hides the eggs. Replaces them with some conveniently nearby, equally as large rocks.
That happen to be egg-shaped.
Yes, and at the same time, McLeach is sending Joanna down to eat the eggs. Says,
he wants to make sure the eagle stays rare.
Yeah, because if the eggs hatch, then it's no longer a rare species. Well, sure. So he's purposely trying to endanger the species. Let's just call that.
Yeah.
So he sends Joanna down to eat the eggs, but the eggs are actually rocks. Beautiful animation on Joanna, because that's how a lizard would eat eggs.
Yeah, she's trying to eat the eggs, but she can't get her teeth in them. They won't crack. They won't slide down. So she just takes her tail and just whips them off the side of the
yeah
the cliff.
One way or another, these eggs are gonna crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bernard it's a nice smart move by Bernard to hide the eggs as Wilbur flies in. Bernard tells Wilbur that Bianca's in trouble, but the eggs still need to be kept warm. And, well, you're a bird. Could you do me a favor? And, of course, we have our trope of the guy not wanting to do woman things. It's a 90s movie.
Yeah.
But, and, of course, it's one of the oldest jokes in cartoons. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I should have told him no. Now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So this kind of knocks Wilbur out for the rest of the movie. As for the rest of the movie, he's sitting on these eggs.
Yeah. This is kind of the last we see of Wilbur in action.
Yeah.
He has jokes, we see him again, but as far as an active part of the film, that's kind of it.
It's almost a waste of John Candy.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you what more can you do with this character that would be proactive with the story.
But here's what it does, though, for Bernard, is it forces Bernard to be more proactive, which I do like.
Yeah. Earlier in the movie, we saw Jake get assertive with a snake, saying, "Hey, I don't have time to talk. I need to get somewhere, and you're gonna take me." And the snake agrees. He does the same thing with what is this, a warthog or something?
It's a razorback.
He goes to this razorback, grabs him by the tusk, and saying, "I need to get somewhere, and you're gonna take me."
Yeah, I like it because he immediately goes up to the razorback and is like, listen to me, I'm gonna do this, and the razorback's just like, yeah, okay. Part of me wonders if the pig just kind of isn't like, you could have just asked. Like, you didn't have to get all alpha on me, Like, you could have just been like, hey, somebody's in trouble, But we do have that weird thing of, like, which animals speak English and which don't.
Yeah.
And we don't know which the pig is.
And Bernard does not have time to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he could have asked, but Bernard's on a tight schedule here. He needs to get to where Bianca is, otherwise this kid is dead.
But the thing is that while all this has been going on with the eggs and everything, McLeach has taken Cody and the Eagle and strangely Jake and Bianca and has put them all in a cage and is taking them has taken them to a giant waterfall that has a bunch of crocodiles over them.
Yeah, he's gonna, as he says, he's gonna tie up a loose end by feeding Cody to the crocodiles.
And instead of just like throwing the kid in, he does this whole complicated thing where he puts the kid on a rope and dangles him over and makes the crocodiles jump toward him with a giant spotlight on him. And it's, like, dude, he's a child. He weighs like 4 pounds. Pick him up and throw him in. I mean,
He's having fun with this, which is the fall of the Disney villain, where they get too cocky.
yeah, I know, but it just is such a ridiculous plan.
But because he's literally wasting time, it gave Bernard enough time to catch up and steal the keys out of the truck, which turns all of the power off in the entire truck. That must be a powerful car battery to power up all this stuff in McLeach's truck here.
Yeah, it is, because it's powering like a bunch of really high-powered spotlights and winches and all kinds of nonsense. But he gets the keys to to Bianca and Jake, and he ends up, interestingly, tricking Joanna into crashing into McLeach, because he runs up McLeach's pant leg as Joanna's chasing him. And Joanna doesn't have time to stop, so she ends up just like barreling full steam into McLeach, and Bernard jumps off before they fall into the water.
But not before McLeach gets a gunshot and ends up, because since the winch no longer has power, he's going to do it the old-fashioned way and shoot the rope, which he does.
Cody falls into the water, but he's still tied up, so he can't swim up to the surface. Bernard swims down and somehow hand-wavy gets Cody up to the surface and pulls him and ties him to a log enough to keep him floating above water for a while. And Bernard is tying the rope to a log. We don't see how this happens. It just happens. But there is a nice little bit where the crocodiles are coming after McLeach and Joanna, and McLeach is swinging his gun at the crocodiles to keep them from biting him and grabbing him. And then he's like, "No, you're never gonna get me. I'm better than you. You're never gonna get McLeach." And then all of a sudden the crocodiles back off and he's like, "Ha ha, I beat you." And then he sees Joanna, who has like made it to a rock on the side. And it's such a good bit of animation, because she just kind of sadly looks at him and waves goodbye. And then he looks back and it's like, "Oh, I'm about to go over a waterfall." And then he starts panicking, and then, we follow him as he falls off of this gigantic waterfall to his death. But that little moment of Joanna on the on the rock just waving by, just very sadly.
Yeah, like usually in these kind of things, once the sidekick has broken free, they're laughing at their villainous, their boss's demise. This one is just, she is heartbroken. She knows her Her human is about to die, and there's nothing she can do about it. So all she can do is wave goodbye. Say, goodbye, human friend who abused me, but you at least fed me eggs, so I'm going to give you that.
I think that's what she's sad about. I'm not sure she's sad about the human so much as like, goodbye, source of eggs. Now I have to go back to hunting, and that is more difficult. Like. Meanwhile, Cody is tied to this log, but the log breaks. But fortunately, Jake and Bianca have gotten the key to the lock and grab onto the eagle, and they're like, go, go! And just as Cody and Bernard fall over the waterfall, the eagle dives down and once again saves Cody from falling to his imminent death. And then they soar up to the clouds, and as the my friend who I watched this with, as he noted, they all have this weird blue glow around them, so it makes them look like Force ghosts, so it kind of all looks like they died at the end. And since this is kind of the final shot that we see of them, they might have just died at the end, because we never see him go back home. We never see him reunite with his mother. As far as anyone knows, they're just all dead.
But Bernard was able to get the proposal in right at the end of the movie.
But right at the end of the movie, on the eagle's back, Bernard is like, I'm not waiting a second longer. Bianca, will you marry me? And she's like, of course I will. Duh, and then they're engaged now. And that's the last we see of this crew. And then we cut over to Wilbur, and he's like, you know what, that's it. I'm not sitting on these eggs anymore. I'm out of here. And then one of them starts to hatch, and he's like, no, don't hatch. Oh, you're so cute. And then one of them bites him, and he's like, ow, my bones. And then that's the movie.
Yeah, that's the ends. The rescuers down under.
And Cody's mom cries forever and ever because her little boy has been eaten by crocodiles, and she never knows he's alive.
Yeah. So let's ask the question: does the rescuers down under have the magic?
I mean, a little bit. It has more than the first one. It's at least a coherent plot.
It's better than the first movie. It probably doesn't deserve the lack of success it got, but it's definitely not anywhere close to the rest of the Disney Renaissance.
Yeah, this is not a Disney Renaissance film.
Yeah. Most of the animation is held up with the exception of some of the CG background.
I really only saw that one shot. The Opera House shot is the only thing that stood out to me as like, ooh, that didn't hold up very well. The rest of it I thought was very, very pretty.
But for their first attempt of using computers to make a 2D animated movie, it's not bad. Still holds up. The story is not perfect, but it's a lot better than what the first movie was. And it's a shame that this movie doesn't really get as much recognition as the original does.
It at least has a coherent plot. The villain is very good.
The fact that they have one villain instead of two, you could say Joanna's kind of a villain, but so were the crocodiles in the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sidekick. Joanna's a sidekick. That's fine.
And we also never find out what happened to the other animals in McLeach's lair.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they got out. Hopefully somebody went back and saved them. Yeah, it could have used a better ending. It could have used, like, one scene to wrap up. Like, Mom, I'm home, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it feels like the movie just ends. Like,
yeah.
at least with the first movie, we got that ending scene of Penny with her adopted family, and the idea that Bernard and Bianca are going to go on more adventures.
It's a movie that stops rather than ends.
Yeah, it just stops. They're on the Eagle, Bernard and Bianca get engaged, and that's it.
Yeah. But I liked John Candy's performance. The two leads, when they have something to do, are good. All of the vocal performances, save for the kid, I think were really good. Um, but overall, it was kind of, again, the comparison helps it more. I think if this had just been like a one-off movie that we had just watched, we would have been like, ugh, what a turd. But I think comparing to the original movie, we're like, wow, this is such a step up. What an interesting and unique take on the rescuers. Like,
It also helps that like the technology has improved. It doesn't have that Xerox scratch look anymore.
oh yeah.
This is a completely new set of animators and a completely new set of writers.
The rescuers, it does feel like there's something to the idea of that world. I just think that people don't know what to do with it.
I feel like if you're going to like we've talked about, Disney likes doing these live action remakes. We just talked about the one with Snow White. I think this can work as a live action remake.
No.
You don't think so?
I want this to stay animated. I think this is a cute animated idea. I don't want to see like a CGI, Alvin and the Chipmunks kind of idea.
I am surprised that okay, I get it that this movie didn't make the money they were hoping for and they kind of swept it under the rug, but the fact that they never made the attempt to make another film in their direct-to-video sequels era, I'm surprised that they didn't.
Here's what I'm going to say. If we ever revisit The Rescuers as a series, it needs to be... I like the idea of parallel worlds that humans are unaware of. Okay? So don't do it like an entire Zootopia thing where it's just like, here's a world all of animals that's kind of like our own. Like, there needs to be humans. The Secret
Life of Pets did it really well.
Yeah, something like that, where it's like, there needs to be humans, and then there needs to be animals having their own lives alongside the human world. But keep it focused on the animals. If there's a human, do it like I said before. Like, they're doing their own thing, and maybe a child stumbles upon their rescue operation and decides to help. But it should be like, they're there to rescue animals. It's animals helping animals. Maybe a human comes along if you really, really want to. That's it. Okay? I think that the adorableness comes from this really complex, interesting world going on right under our noses that we never see. I love that idea. I love whenever anything uses it. I think it's adorable. And then just keep it self-contained to that idea. Let that be the humor and the cuteness and the whatever. Okay? But keep it focused on animals and how cute animals are and how interesting it would be if animals were doing their own thing alongside of us. Like you said, Secret Life of Pets and all that kind of stuff has been doing that lately. That's cool. Do that sort of thing. I like that.
So yeah, it's at least worth a watch, but I don't know. Can you watch this movie without watching the first movie?
Absolutely. I did as a kid. I thought this was a one-off movie. I just thought this was about two mice. One of them was in love with the other one. Like, I had no idea they had a... I thought it was weird that, like, they knew this bird's brother, but I'm like, okay, whatever. You knew the bird's brother. Okay.
So yeah, I think it's worth it's worth checking out. It's on Disney Plus. If you got Disney Plus, you got. I also appreciate that this movie is at least half an hour shorter than the original. I think that helps.
Yeah, very much.
So, yeah, thumbs up for the Rescuers Down Under.
Well, thumbs for the Rescuers Down Under for me.
Let's say thumb sideways. Some
Yeah,
sideways.
it's all right if you got an extra time. This will not be your favorite Disney movie, I don't think.
No, no. And if it is, more power to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. If this is one of your beloved nostalgic bits from childhood, I get it. But
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's good. Well, let's kind of move on. All right. So next week is my birthday. So
huzzah!
so we're gonna do one of my favorite movies of all time, and the fact that fairly recently this became a Disney movie. That would be the Fox movie, The Princess Bride.
As you wish.
So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one next week. So tune in next week for that. And officially this episode is now over. So thank you for listening. But we have one more thing we want to talk about, and I want to save it for the end because it is very spoiler heavy.
Well, it's not terribly spoilery.
It's spoiler enough that we don't want to make it part of the main show. We don't. So if you want to hear us discussing episode 3 of Loki in a mostly spoilerish way, stick around. If not, thank you for listening and come back next week for The Princess Bride. So I'll let Kiki take it away.
All right, so mildly, probably spoilery discussion of Loki episode 3 begins now. All right, so as we're recording this, Loki episode 3 has just dropped, and it has caused a minor stir on the internet for being, once again, Disney's first queer representation of a certain stripe, and I wanted to talk about it because it's a topic close to my heart. Yes, in a massive move for Disney, Disney now has their first bisexual hero character, main character, what, I don't know. All of these like weird firsts are getting a little strange because they both are and aren't. The reason I said it was kind of mildly spoilery is this is a single
Line of dialogue.
blink and you'll miss it line of dialogue, really. In fact, one of my friends said that they missed it entirely. I talked about the big reveal on Loki and they went, "What reveal?" I watched the episode and I missed it. But yeah, the bisexual community in general has been, I guess rightfully, talking about it. And full disclosure, I myself consider myself bisexual. So this is my community and my representation specifically we are talking about here, which is why I wanted to discuss it. I don't know. This rings a little hollow for me. One, Loki has been both kind of gender fluid and also bisexual / pansexual, however you want to define that, in the comics for ages now.
Even in the mythology, Loki did turn into a female horse.
Even in the mythology, Norse mythology, Loki is very fluid in both gender and sexuality. So for the MCU to finally acknowledge this is kind of, yeah, it's a big deal, but it's also kind of not a big deal. And also it's being done in such a way, again, that it can be cut out for those places where Disney wants to make money, but they don't want to they don't really want to say queer things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before with other things. We've talked about this with, oh, LeFou is gay, but not in China or Russia, you
We
know?
have a gay couple in Star Wars for 2 seconds that can be easily cut out for the Chinese market.
Yeah, it's that same thing again. I think that it probably, whenever this makes it to the Chinese or Russian or wherever else market, this line will not be there.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, I don't speak the languages, but there are several languages already for the episode when it was uploaded. I haven't checked them myself, but I wouldn't doubt if those languages already had that line removed. I think they did it for Onward when Pixar had a similar character.
Yeah, if you missed it or if you're not caring about spoilers and are listening without having seen it, there is a discussion between Loki and the character Sylvie, who may or may not also be a Loki. And she says, well, you're a really hot prince of Asgard. You must have had a bunch of wannabe princesses, or maybe a wannabe prince. And Loki says, oh, yeah, a bit of both. Probably same as you. In other words, you're a Loki, and we're all into both. All Lokis are bisexual. There.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. Confirmed. The director, Kate Herron, has officially said on Twitter, right after moments after the episode went up, she shared screen caps and she confirmed that, yes, this is us saying that Loki is bisexual in official canon, and that she is bisexual herself, and it was very important to her to make Loki bisexual in the official MCU canon. Which, I get it, bisexuals get so little representation even from our own community. You know? In the LGBT community, the B is so often silent. There's a lot of well, you're really gay, but you just don't want to admit it yet.
Or,
Or
I mean,
you're really
yeah,
straight, but you just want to be trendy. But it's like,
yeah, we
no,
have. I
screw
mean,
you.
I've had both of us have friends that are bisexual that have, you know, married to their opposite gender, and they did get flack for it. Well, you're not really part of the community. You're not really a bisexual woman. You married a man. You're not really a bisexual man. You married a woman, and it's like doesn't make them less.
Yeah, when you're bisexual and you're in a straight passing relationship, it's immediately like, oh, I thought you were bisexual. Like, well, yeah, no, I am. I just happen to be with a person of a different gender than me now. It's like, just if it's like, if me as a woman, if I am dating a man, still bisexual. If I am dating a woman, I'm not suddenly a lesbian, still bisexual. You know? If I am dating a non-binary person, still bisexual. It's like, it's like your sexuality is your sexuality, no matter how it's kind of presenting at the time. Especially with bisexual, pansexual people. But so in a way, I wanted to talk about this because I'm glad, as both a massive Loki fan, which we have already talked about, how Loki is probably my second favorite character in the MCU, and as a bisexual person myself, I'm really happy that they're doing this. Yeah, okay. there's a, I'm probably quoting it wrong, but there's a Harvey Fierstein quote that is something like representation at any cost, no matter what. It's like,
And in that scene in Loki, it's also the colors of the bisexual flag in that
yeah,
room.
it's something called bisexual lighting. And if you ever want a really good video on it, Kyle Colgren has a really good a video on his channel, Brows Held High, that I highly recommend on bisexual lighting. That blue, pink, purple lighting scheme. At which point the director has also said that she specifically used that color scheme for that scene. But they're also getting the same flack that I'm talking about. Like, thank you for putting it in there, but can we get more than one throwaway line? That
Yeah.
that even people who support us, I mean, the friend that I mentioned that missed it is an ally.
It
You
says a
know,
lot
it's
that we got more, for lack of a better term, more bisexual representation in Deadpool than we're getting it that we got in Loki.
yeah. I mean, Deadpool, who in the Marvel comics is pansexual canonically, in the films is more. I mean, of course, that was Fox before the official takeover,
But he
but
was making, yeah, he was making passes at men and women.
yeah, so I mean, he is more canonically pansexual in his movies than Loki gets to be bisexual in his. Maybe they'll get to it a little further in the series, but as
We've got 3 more episodes. Who knows what's going to happen?
yeah, so I wanted to acknowledge it as a personally significant moment and as a significant moment for the community and as a significant moment for the MCU because they really haven't had a queer MCU character canonically. So,
A main character. Let's say main character, because there
well,
has
yeah.
been background characters, and there was the
Yeah,
one Russo brother that had a line about being on a date with a man, but
yeah, in the
main
Captain
MCU
America,
character.
yeah, the Captain America support group that did have that line. Yeah. Yeah. And once again, that line can be cut out for foreign markets, even in that. I'm just sick of us being able to be excised in other countries. You know, Disney did this entire rainbow capitalism for pride,
They were one of the first. They were the
including
first. They
including a
a gay day at their park.
well, and Disney put out this year, and I still want one. I never got around to ordering one. A bisexual Mickey ear pin that I really, really desperately want.
I was at the Disney store in downtown Chicago about a week ago, and they have the rainbow shirts with the rainbow. It's Mickey's hand making a heart, and it's the rainbow flag in the heart.
Yeah, and they've been putting out like what is it? The rainbow is for everybody, or the
So something like that.
something like that. They've got this like cute little thing they've been doing. And one of the creators was talking about how he kept trying to put queer themes in his cartoon for the Disney Channel, and they kept saying, "No, you can't put that in because we can't cut it out for the foreign market." And he said, "I beg creators in future to keep throwing this line back in their faces."
I mean, not to jump to a different studio, but Rebecca Sugar risked her own career because she wanted a gay wedding in Steven Universe.
Yeah, I mean, Cartoon Network has been really good about it. Strangely, Owl House, which isn't Owl House Disney,
I believe so.
has had it has a canonically bisexual main character. Yeah, so I mean, Disney has, they're willing to do it at least in that. Maybe they weren't looking to sell Owl House to a different market.
Maybe.
Maybe MCU is just too much money to lose.
The MCU is their is their top franchise. Avengers is, Avengers Endgame was the highest movie of all time, the highest grossing movie of all time. So to have their number one franchise, like, I think they're going to be a bit more careful with it. I
But
mean, they've already risked having Shang-Chi not even be released in China because of the theming that they're using in that movie.
yeah, but it rings hollow, Disney, for you to do all the like buy our rainbow themed merchandise, but you get one line of recognition from a character so that we can easily cut you out so we can make money in China. So, speaking for myself, yeah, I'm going to be riding the the bisexual Loki train all the way to the station, I guess. But at the same time, I really want to be able, I want Loki to be as bisexual in every country as he is here, or not exist. I want Disney to have, Disney is unstoppable. We talk about it all the time. Disney owns everything everywhere forever. You know, if if you're going to have that kind of power, use it. Maybe for good for once. Maybe just once look at another country and go, "No, you don't get Loki. You either get bisexual Loki or you get no Loki at all.
Yeah.
Deal with it or don't. That's your choice, but that's the choice you got to make. You either got to deal with a queer character or you've got to deal with just not having it. You want to ban it? Fine. We're still going to make all of the money in the world. And honestly, I think if they actually put their foot down and made that decision, all the countries other than that one, Loki becomes the biggest thing in the world. Tom Hiddleston becomes the face of the resistance. You know? And apparently Tom Hiddleston has apparently been pushing for this. That he's wanted this storyline.
He is the executive producer of the show, so he does have a certain amount of pull.
So, as far as I know, he himself identifies as straight. I have never known him to claim any sort of queer identity for himself. But I mean, if he does, please come out. That would be awesome. But he has apparently been pushing for them to do the gender fluid Loki, bisexual Loki, thing for a while. And bless him for it. I'm glad he threw his weight behind that, but you know, it could be a moment. If they would just say, like, we're going to throw the entire weight of the mouse behind refusing to give in to these weird, bigoted, authoritarian governments in other places, that's kind of, I mean, as much as I personally have my issues with forms of capitalism, that's the good you can do. That's the power of the dollar right there.
Yeah.
Or, insert currency of choice. So, if you're gonna do it all the way. I dislike this kind of, throwaway line and we'll forget about it. Like, you know, have go Game of Thrones with it, where you're gonna have like sex position that you can't cut out or something, like have Loki in bed with several genders of people saying something that is so plot relevant that it can't be removed, and just go like, nope, either you get this scene or you don't get the show. Done. I don't know. That's my feelings. Thank you for going on that journey with me. But I needed to get that out of my system, so
Yeah. So yeah. If you have any words you would like to say on the subject, feel free to let us know on our social medias and such.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what anybody has to say about it.
So I think that's all we can say right now. Again, thank you for indulging us on this one. Come back next week for The Princess Bride, and we will talk to you all then. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.